Howdy folks, Dave here at Thunder Mesa Studio coming to you with part 4 of our HO scale Christmas layout build, the Santa Fe and St. Nick. Back in part 3 we modeled all of this snowy scenery, but this time out I want to get started on the structures, specifically the depot and water tower scene, something that would be typical of a charming little small town like this. Now, due to some computer issues I've been having, I am a little bit behind schedule on this build, and you know Christmas is coming whether we're ready for it or not. I want to thank all of you who have been waiting patiently for this episode to come out, and please rest assured that I still will be finishing everything up before Christmas, just in the next week or so. No problem there. I think we better get to work. So here's where we left off, with sort of just a blank canvas of white painted foam, and now my job is to turn this into a charming turn-of-the-century small town at Christmas time. I've given myself a little bit of a head start with the depot. This is a pre-built structure from Walthers called the Victoria Springs Station, and I love it because it's actually a model of Ward Kimball's Grizzly Flat Station, and it comes painted and assembled and ready to plunk on the layout right out of the box. I did repaint the roof and the platform, but other than that, it's pretty much just as it comes. And of course, I'll be adding some snow to the roof and details and signs and things like that a little bit further on. And of course, one of the great things about working in HO scale like this is the wide availability of kits and parts and details that you can find in this scale. But I think the best place to start is probably going to be with this water tower. It's a fairly simple plastic kit to put together, and if you haven't put a plastic kit together before, this is a great one to start with. This is an injected molded plastic kit, as opposed to cast resin or something like that. And the nice thing about these kits is that, you know, they're often molded in color. I don't think we're going to use this shanty, so I'm going to put that in the box. I'll be painting all the parts though anyway, just because I think painted plastic looks a lot better than just raw plastic like this. You know, it's a little too shiny to be realistic. I just want to start removing the parts from the sprues. Some tools you want to have standing by for that. I like a utility knife like this for cutting through these thick injection molded plastic sprues. A hobby knife with a new sharp number 11 blade in it. Some 220 grit sandpaper, which is great for cleaning up these cut marks where you've taken the pieces off, and some files in case you need to do a little fiddling to get things to fit properly. For assembly, I'm using some Ducko plastic cement. This stuff right here, which works well for injection molded plastic and styrene. Though for styrene, bonding probably works a little bit better. And I like to squeeze the glue out onto a piece of cardboard like this and then apply it with a toothpick. You don't want to try to apply it mono glue like this right out of the tube. That's going to be a mess for sure if you try that. And then the frost box gets glued right down inside the square opening. I'll put these side braces on and just glue down into the base like that. Plastic kits don't get much easier than this. Doesn't really show it in the instructions, but all 4 of these sides of these kind of trestle supports is all supposed to be canted in at an angle. That's pretty easy to figure out though with your just match up the angle of these end pieces. Now we've got the tank support platform, which needs to be centered on top of all of that, right above the frost box. Now I can put the 2 halves of the tank together. That's pretty easy. Just have little nubs that go into little holes like that. Now I've got all the pieces set up for painting, and I'm just going to rattle can these. You can use an airbrush if you're comfortable with that. I'm going to start with the stand. That's going to be dark brown. I'm using the Rust-Oleum dark brown camo. And the tank and the roof. I put the roof on there too because I want to prime it. And I'm going to paint the whole thing with a red oxide primer, and then I'm going to go back and brush paint the roof a different color. And then we've got the tank hardware down here, the spout and the chain and everything, and that'll be flat black. Now with the primer dry, I can paint the roof of this with some of this apple barrel English ivy green. This is the same color that I used on the roof of the depot. And yes, you can paint plastic models with acrylic paints. You can brush paint them just like I'm doing here. You just have to prime them first. And then I want to bring out this roof finial with some Vallejo brass and a small brush. Now all wooden water tanks leaked to some degree. And so we want to be able to simulate that look a little bit. Often they'd be dark from water stains all around the bottom. So I'm taking some pavement and mixing it with a little burnt umber to make it dark, really dark brown. And I can dry brush this on around the base of the tank. And that's going to look like water stains. Then with that dark tone dry brushed on, I'll take some white chalks and just kind of go around where the top of that is, and then kind of dab it on and then pull it down. And that's going to give the look of alkali stains, water stains coming down the side. And when I'm happy with that, I'll spray it with some matte finish or Tester's dull coat to lock it into place. I'll do some dry brushing on the stand too. Got some territorial beige and some more of this light gray. Mix those together in different quantities and just go over all of this cast in wood detail. Try to bring some of that out. The base down here is going to be covered in snow, so I'm going to go ahead and paint most of it white. Okay, I think that'll do for now. And then I'll do the final blending with more snow when it's over on the layout. Now I can go ahead with the final assembly. Glue the tank onto the platform. Make sure the correct side is out where the spout's going to go. And then the spout slots in right here and this hole up here. And then the upper ladder should fit right here. Alright, now I want to add some snow to the roof and the other flat surfaces. And for that I'm going to use some of this Woodland Scenics Soft Flake Snow. So I'm just brushing on some diluted white glue onto the roof. Sprinkle this on. Now paint the tops of these beams with a little bit of white glue. And we sprinkle some on. Now I want to wet all this down with a fine mist of water. This is wet water, which is water with a couple of drops of detergent in it to break the surface tension. And then I can take my diluted white glue and just kind of dribble it on the top here, all the places where there's snow. Sprinkle on a little more snow to soak up that extra glue. This is a lot like applying ballast to the rail if you've ever done that. Now I'm giving the roof of my depot the same treatment. First I brushed on some white glue, and now I'm building up layers of the snow on top of it. I love how this stuff just kind of falls and gathers in little drifts very, very realistically, just like real snow. A light misting of water, and then some diluted white glue. Let that soak in. We'll go ahead and throw some on the platform here while I'm at it. Now I want this platform to look like it's been shoveled, right? So while this is still wet, just take a flat brush and whisk it off to the side like that. And wipe it out of your brush on a paper towel. I'll leave a few little clumps there and there where Someone didn't do that great of a job, maybe. Sweeping. They got cold, went back inside, sat by the stove. Who can blame them? Also take my brush and remove the snow, kind of push it back away from the base of the smoke jack where it would have melted. I've got the depot back over here on the workbench because I want to do a little bit more detailing on it. First thing I want to add are some signs. Depots like this always had the sign, usually with the name of the town, often with the population, and then the elevation above sea level. And the font is really, really tiny. It's really hard to read, but it says St. Nicholas, population 1,225, elevation 5,000 feet. I made these in Adobe Photoshop, but you don't need Photoshop to do something like this. This is pretty basic. You just need to use the correct font, which is Railroad Roman, and that's one you can download for free at a lot of places. And you could do it in Microsoft Paint or, gosh, probably even Word if you wanted to. The trick is to print it out on some high quality photo paper. These are inkjet prints. You want to create it at about 300 DPI in your settings, minimum. And then when you print it out, you'll actually be able to read that lettering, at least if you've got an OptiVisor or magnifying glass. Now I want to quickly paint around the edges. I'll just get some black acrylic paint for that. When using printed paper signs, it's always a good idea to paint the edges of the paper. Just makes it look a lot more realistic without the white edge showing. And when painting the edges like this, it's always a really good idea to come from the back side and just use the edge of a very small brush. This is a 4-0 brush, and just kind of dab it on the edge like that. The reason you do it from the back is, if for any reason the brush slips, then the paint's going to go on the back of the piece and not on the front of the sign where you don't want it. Now to glue something like this onto a plastic structure, I like to use a little Aleene's tacky glue. It's a PVA, like white glue, but it has a little bit more gription to it. It really is tacky, just like they say, and so it does a good job of adhering things like this to a plastic model. You don't want to use cyanoacrylate because, crazy glue, because that's going to stain the sign. It's going to seep through and stain it from the back. Now I want to add a little bit of Christmas decor. I want to put a wreath right up here. So I've got some floral wire, some green floral wire, which you can pick up in the craft department of just about any discount store. And I'm going to form this into a circle just by wrapping it around the end of a paintbrush. Wrap it around several times because we want to have some surface to work with, because we're going to be gluing ground foam, dark green ground foam onto here. I'm going to wind the wire around it, bulk it up a little bit. Started with a piece that was about 6 inches long. You want to cut off a piece of wire that's about 6 to 8 inches long. Okay. I'm going to trim this part off later, but for now I'm going to leave it so I have a handle to work with. Now this is some conifer green ground foam from Woodland Scenics. It's the clump foliage. And I'm going to slather some Aleene's tacky glue onto the face of this. Then I'm going to take these clumps and kind of break them apart, make some smaller pieces. Using our wire as a handle, start sticking it on right into the glue. Now at the end of this step, it's just going to look like a big clump, but we're going to trim all that up after the glue dries. Now I'll take my small scissors, just go around and trim this carefully back into a circular shape. Then I want to take something pointy like a sharp pencil and poke right through the middle. Open that back up again. Okay, now we have a nice little evergreen wreath. But I think we need to make it look a little bit more Christmassy. So I've got some Vallejo red. I'm just going to take my small brush and add little red dots. Just here and there randomly, like they are Christmas balls. That's probably good. For a final bit of detail, dab some white glue on the top. Just on the top edge, and here a little bit down inside of the wreath, and then sprinkle on just a little bit of the Woodland Scenic's soft flake snow, so it'll match the snowy look of the rest of the structure. Now I can snip this wire off the back, and I can glue it right to the front of the structure with a couple of drops of CA. Well, that's downright Christmassy, isn't it? Now I'm using some Woodland Scenic's water effects and a small paintbrush to add some icicles hanging down. I've squeezed some out onto a piece of cardboard and just coming up under the eaves here and then pulling them down like that. And when that dries, they'll dry clear and should look just like icicles. Now I want to extend the platform a little bit on each side for passengers that are boarding and deboarding the trains. And for that, I'm going to use some crescent illustration board. So I'm cutting a couple of pieces of illustration board, about 1.5 inches wide. Now to make this look like wood, first I'm going to texture it with a fine-tooth razor saw blade. Add some wood grain. Then once you have the wood grain scribed in, I'm going to make a mark about every 1/8 of an inch and just kind of scribe in some boards. Then once the boards are scribed in, I want to stain it to look like wood, so using some wood stain. This is some Minwax dark walnut. I find these touch-up pens really handy for these kinds of projects. Just like staining wood, you want to go with the grain. You can go over some of the boards a couple of times to add a little bit of variation. Don't forget the edges. And just like that, in a matter of about 5 minutes, we've gone from plain illustration board to something that looks an awful lot like a wooden platform. These wouldn't just sit on the ground, so I've got some HO scale 8x8s that I'm going to use to build a little frame for them, so they'll be up off the ground. And I can put them together with just a little bit of white glue. Now we can glue these down right in place with a little bit of Eileen's tacky glue. And the longer one over on this side. Now I'll dab on some white glue, some likely places, kind of carrying over the look of the swept or shoveled snow from the main platform. And then I can just sprinkle on some of this soft flake snow. Then once the glue is set up, I can just kind of blow away the excess. Those of you who watch my channel regularly know that I really like to put lights inside of my structures, and this depot has a hole in the bottom, so I'm going to put a 3mm warm white LED up inside. So this is a good time to prepare the layout for all the lights and all the structures going forward, and to that end I have a little 9-volt DC transformer. I use these all over the Thunder Mesa layout for lighting and animation effects and stuff like that, and they work great. The warm white LEDs that I have are rated for 9 to 12 volts, so 9 volts should be just fine. Then I've got a little terminal strip here, which I'm going to mount underneath the layout, and all of the wiring from the different structures will come down and hook up to this. Positive here, negative here. First, I need to attach the DC transformer to this. So I'm just going to mount it to one of the layout cross beams here with some 1-inch drywall screws. Alright, that's not going anywhere. So now I have measured where the hole is in the bottom of the depot, and I can put a corresponding hole now down through the foam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. No need for fancy drills, you can poke right through this foam with a bamboo skewer. I buy these LEDs online in bulk, and they already have a resistor soldered onto them. So it makes it really easy to add lighting to structures like this. I want a nice tight fit here. Now I want the light to be diffused, so that when you look in, through the windows of the depot, you don't just see a big light bulb in there. So I've got a length of clear plastic straw here, and I've wrapped some Scotch Magic tape around it, and that will act as a diffuser for the bulb. Now, if I measured right, the structure should fit right down on top of that. Now I just need to hook the wires up to the DC bus, and there is the positive. Let there be light. And now for my favorite part, adding figures and details will really bring this scene to life. All of these figures and details have come to me from different places. They're not hard to find. Some were given to me by friends. Like this carriage came from Don Backen. Thank you, Don. Gave me a whole bunch of HO scale stuff. Now, this is a whole set of Victorian era Pricer figures in HO scale, which are just perfect for this. Right there. Put a brakeman down here at this end of the platform to warn other trains that might be coming. Right here, I think we need to have the jolly old fat man himself, Santa Claus. He's a well-known figure from Pricer's, probably on thousands of model railroads. This little bag of goodies here. And then we got to have some children around old Santa. I think it's important when placing figures to have them, relate to each other. Helps to tell a little story. We have this poor guy whose job it is to shovel the platform. I think the railroad could afford to get him a bigger shovel than that. I wonder it takes him so long. And down here we'll have some crates and things to be shipped out. All right, I think that'll work. scene complete, I think it's time to bring in the train. These colorful old-time Santa Fe coaches are from Roundhouse Models, and I was fortunate to find a ready-to-run set on eBay. I love how the bright 19th century paint schemes look against the snowy landscape, and I think they're just perfect for a Christmas layout like this. If you can't find a set of cars exactly like this one, don't worry. There are plenty of HO scale old-time coaches available from Bachmann, Rivarossi, IHC, and many others. And that is going to wrap it up for our Christmas Depot scene. I will be back in just a few days with more structures for the Santa Fe and St. Nick as we build out the rest of our turn-of-the-century small town. Until then, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel if you haven't already and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next video when it comes out. You can also follow us over on Instagram at thunder.mesa and see all that's new on the Thunder Mesa Studio website at thundermesa.studio. As always, if you really enjoy what we're doing here at the channel and would like to show your support, you can do what these great folks did and head on over to patreon.com/thundermesa and show your support there. Until next time, keep moving forward, my friends. Happy holidays. Adios for now.